Hey ho, everybody. That wonderful beginning moment on YouTube where you go, is anybody seeing me? Does anybody even know I'm here? Okay. And now I'm hearing myself. So that's the other great first YouTube moment where you have to turn yourself off so you're not hearing yourself at the same time that you're talking, which is quite a psychedelic experience and not one that I highly recommend to everybody. Okay. So, how's everybody doing? How's the full moon treating everyone? Crazy, especially full moon, mixed with all the K2 Mars stuff and everything else that's going on. So, for those of you who this is your first time here, and even those of you who it's not your first time here, just so you know, kind of the rules of the road are general astrological questions are welcome. Please do not ask questions about your own personal horoscope. I'm not here to give a reading for you. I can give you some general concepts, but you see, if I give you everything about your chart based on one or two planets, it's not going to be probably as accurate as you might like for it to. Why? Because you're not just your Rashi chart. You are all of your different Varga charts put together, right? And I need to know the strength of all the planets and all sorts of stuff, right? So general questions are welcome, right? So today is the full moon. For those who don't know, if you're in the States, the full moon is tonight. If you're in Europe, further over in India, the full moon is tomorrow. Okay. But please feel free to ask away at your questions. What is relationship between moon and Saturn? So do you mean right now or do you mean planetary friendship? Okay, because that's a very vague question. I'm not really sure if I know what you mean. So please clarify your question for me. I've got my headphones on just so everybody knows because my throat tends to get raw. And since I talk all day, if I have this on, I don't have to talk quite as loud to talk to all of you. Okay. Planetary friendship. Well, first of all, the thing is that the moon doesn't view anybody as an enemy. Okay. So the moon views Saturn as a neutral, but Saturn views the moon as an enemy. Okay. And now, too, well, there is going to be, or there was earlier today, there was a tense angle between the moon and Saturn as we're building up to this full moon. And the moon is in Uttada Bhadrapada Nakshatra. So there's definitely a connection between the moon and Saturn in this particular instance. But you know what? I did a whole video on the full moon. So, I suggest going to watch that and you'll get a lot more energy. Somebody's saying, do they actually aspect? Yes. Most people are just familiar with the main drishti aspects, like the full aspects in Vedic astrology, but Parashara gave other aspects to the planets. And basically, planetary aspects are judged on a scale of 0 to 60. Okay. And basically, planets are almost always forming an aspect to each other. There are a few rare cases where they're not. It's just that quite often those aspects are so weak that it's not really making a difference. Okay. But Saturn and the moon are making an aspect to each other. Okay. So I don't want to go, even though I know this is the full moon edition. What I mean by the full moon edition is this is the, pardon me, there's a fly buzzing around. This is the question and answer session on the full moon. Really, if you're wanting me to go into the full moon, I did a whole video on it. Basically, what's happening is in one area of our lives, everybody's life, there's something that we're not really wanting to tolerate anymore. And because things are tense in that particular area, we're ready for things to move on. And you may feel like you're needing to take strong action in order to move that thing on because of the moon being in Uttada Bhadrapada Nakshatra. And with that connection between Saturn and the moon and Saturn in Mula, things are just kind of naturally falling apart in that particular area. And you don't necessarily need to push things along. And actually, pushing things along right now may not be the most helpful thing for you to do. Instead, it's likely going to be best to just let things kind of unravel a little bit at their own pace. And as they unravel, you'll likely notice what I like to call a framework beneath that that points in the direction of what you need to do next. Sometimes things fall apart so that something new can be created within the same thing. Like, let's say, for instance, a relationship. Like maybe a relationship is seemingly falling apart or crumbling, but only so you can get to the root of what the problem is so that you can work towards making things better. And so if you rush things along with this particular full moon, even though you may be feeling the passion of the moment, you may find that it kind of comes back and, like, kind of bites you later on, so to speak. And um, it's not really suggested with this particular energy. Okay. This full moon is exactly conjunct your natal Venus. That must be pretty intense. That must be pretty intense. So what's this Mercury's current transit in Hasta Nakshatra going to be like? It's going to be different for each person. That's why I don't want to go too deeply into that. We're feeling a little bit of this Mercury transit right now with this full moon, this desire to want to take control of a situation and micromanage what's going on with it, when really the micromanagement side of it is not really necessary. Right? It's doing what it needs to do all on its own. So that's kind of the Mercury and Hasta thing. Maybe I'll do a video on Mercury and Hasta sometime soon. So I also wanted to let everybody know that I have several new courses. You've probably heard about a couple of them. I've got a clarifying Rahu and Ketu course, which is a course that teaches how to work with the nodes. Because, the thing is the nodes are always a force that need to be understood regardless of which dasha you're in, because quite often you'll find that the nodes are getting activated by the dasha you're in anyway, because maybe that planet is conjuncting one of the nodes, or maybe one of the nodes is in a nakshatra of that planet, or maybe the planet itself is in a nakshatra associated with one of the nodes. But aside from that, the nodes lay out the main karmic framework of our life and how it's going to play out. And so even in other dashas, that nodal axis is always functioning in the background. So there's a course on the nodes and how to work with those. There's also a very extensive course on the Vargas, like over 60 classes long. Both of those are video courses, and they're available on my website. And just briefly, because I don't want to spend like all my time on this, and you probably don't either, with the exception that you can get a 10% discount between now and tomorrow night at 10:30 p.m. on the courses on my website, including the upcoming Concrete Prediction with Vimshotri Dasha course, which is going to teach how to work with mutual agenda of the planets, as well as the Avastas, in order to do excellent concrete prediction using Vimshotri Dasha. Okay, so if you want to take advantage of this discount, either to register for the upcoming course, which starts on the 5th of October and will be on Friday nights at 8 p.m. London time, or if you want to purchase one of the video courses, there is a 10% discount code that you need to enter when you go to make payment. I'm going to enter that for you here, and that is all uppercase letters moon. Okay, so moon between now and tomorrow night at 10:30 p.m. So tomorrow night, meaning the 25th of September. Okay, and I'll mention that again to everybody. So let's look at some other questions and see what else is going on. Okay, so what do Swati and Vishaka Nakshatra represent? Here's the thing about nakshatras. Nakshatras are very multifaceted, you see. And in order to really learn the nakshatras well and understand nakshatras, you have to know a lot of different things about the nakshatras themselves. And different factors in those nakshatras bring out different um, aspects of those nakshatras, right? So I can give you some general things, but they're going to behave differently dependent upon which planets are in them, which planets are activating them, how strong or how weak the connected planets to those nakshatras are. Swati can be very restless and independent and equally very driven energy. Okay, very strong minded. Swati energy doesn't like to sit still for very long. They're always needing to do things. So those are just some general concepts. I could spend an entire conversation just talking about Swati Nakshatra if I wanted to. Vishaka Nakshatra, with Vishaka Nakshatra, there's always this energy of having 1 foot out the door and 1 foot still in the door. Right, a transformation is taking place with Vishaka Nakshatra. It's like it's similar in some ways to Revati Nakshatra, only slightly different. Right, basically with Vishaka Nakshatra, one part of your life is usually ending and another part has yet to begin, but part of you is already in that new life, but still connected to the old life. And the process that's going on is a very deep transformational process where quite often the individual feels stuck, uncertain of whether they're meant to move forward or go back. Um, those are just some general things about Swati and Vishaka Nakshatra. There's so much more than that. How to see sudden luck through transits. Transits are never meant to be taken isolated. Okay. And that's a mistake that people commonly make, is by going, wow, well, let's just look at these transits, because transits are simple. And that's why people commonly do that. But transits always tie into the dashas. Okay. And transits provide what is given in the dasha or dashas that the individual is going through. So, how to see sudden luck, it depends on the dasha that you're in and whether the dasha actually provides for that. Okay. And so, if I were to tell you one transit that brings sudden luck, it's not going to matter if you're not in the dasha period that's going to activate that particular concept. Okay. All right, so let's see some other questions that are here. Is Mercury combust? Yes, Mercury is combust right now. Okay. Let's see what we've got. Okay, let's look at some other questions here. Planetary maturation. I don't really want to go into that. It's a bit long-winded, and I'd feel compelled to cover every single planet. Maybe I'll do a video on that in the future. But basically, planetary maturation is just when a planet becomes more mature in your horoscope. Like, when you're in your mid-40s, the nodes come mature and you basically begin to understand your nodal axis. It's a similar thing with Mars. When your Mars becomes mature, you begin to understand your Mars, what your will is, what your drive is, and all of those particular things, right? Okay. Let's see what else we've got. So please do feel free to ask away some questions. A site where you can collect horoscopes from, the Astro Data Bank. But the thing is a lot of times the horoscopes you find online don't have accurate birth times, just so you know. Okay. Specific question above. What do you mean specific question above? Okay. So here's something I want to share with people. If I don't answer your question, please don't become overly persistent with it. Sometimes I don't want to go into certain things because to do so is going to be very long-winded. So I will go and see if I can locate your question above ADV and see what that might be. What are the positive associations, conjunctions, and maybe negative conjunctions, associations with this full moon in Uttara Bhadrapada? I'm not going to go over like everybody's horoscope and kind of do that type of a thing with it. Okay. So, just so you understand, I'm not here to do horoscope interpretation for you on the spot, or, and I know you're just saying general ones, but, I don't want to like, really go into that. Because again, it all depends on your dasha. Full moons in general can be intense trigger points for things in your horoscope when you're going, when the moon is full. So, like if it's hitting your Saturn, whatever Saturn rules, it can trigger that. If it's hitting your Mars, whatever Mars rules, it can trigger that. But it's like you have to be in the right dasha period, and you have to, for that event to be created, right? And in terms of me saying the conjunctions that will be positive and the conjunctions that will be negative, it depends on on the person's individual horoscope, really. You see, and the strength or weakness of the planets that are involved, a Stakavarga score of the moon as it's going through that area. And I'm not very big on giving vast generalizations when I go through and do things, which is why I don't want to go into depth with, here are some of the positive aspects or conjunctions that the moon would make to a person's chart, because really it would just be like a vast generalization and inaccurate. And so it's not really the best thing to do either for myself or for everybody who's watching. Okay. If Saturn is transiting a 1 Ashtaka point house, does that mean bad? It doesn't mean bad. It's always for your well-being and for your evolution, but it does mean that it can bring more intensive and more difficult things into your life. Okay. Somebody's saying they recognize that everybody was very aggressive today. Yes, it can be that type of energy. What is better to have? A planet with strong Digbala or a planet that is exalted? It's kind of like saying, what is better to have? A cheese and avocado sandwich or to have a packet of crisps? Which do you fancy and for why? Okay. Because it's not necessarily that one is always better than another. But yes, you can have a planet that is exalted and it doesn't have strong Digbala. So it's very difficult to really have a sense of direction with that planet. But you can also have a strong sense of direction with the planet and it's weak. And so you can't really do that much with it. So those are two different things. And that's kind of why I'm saying they're two different things. So it's not really a thing of saying which one is better. Okay. Because it's not necessarily that one is better. Okay. Right. Let's see what else we've got here. Somebody is saying, when you have a full moon in your natal moon nakshatra, what is that significance? Hello, Mia. First of all, in understanding that happens once a month. It doesn't happen once a month. It happens, basically, when you have the full moon in that particular nakshatra. That's not what I meant to say, but we have the moon transiting our natal nakshatra once a month. So if it's a full moon, that just means it's a more powerful lunation cycle for you. Again, with any transits have to be related to your dashas. If you don't connect a planet to the dasha period that you're in, you're going to find yourself giving interpretations to transits that are not accurate. Because basically, transits operate within the framework of the dasha that the individual's in. So really, in short, Mia, it would depend upon what dasha you're in at this particular moment in time, what that significance would be. Right now, Saturn is pretty strong. And so, in terms of what it's about, I just did a video on this and I kind of spoke about it. You'd probably be finding yourself examining your passion, what you're passionate about, looking at whether there are things in your life that you want to keep the structure of or whether you want to let those things fall apart. Those are some of the common themes with this particular full moon. Okay. So just a reminder, all of my courses on my website until tomorrow night, the 25th of September at 10:30 p.m., you can get 10% off of my courses. Now, I have video courses that you can purchase in full or you can purchase in one part sections, right? That's the case with both the Rahu and Ketu course as well as the Varga course. In addition to that, on the 5th of October, I'm starting a 15-week webinar course. And basically, that's going to be on how to work with what's called mutual agenda of the planets. So do planets have an agenda for something? Like, do they have an agenda for the eighth house, right? So let's say you're in a dasha and an antardasha period, and they both have an eighth house agenda, and they're both really strong, like productive planets, and both are in good dignity. Well, that means that something strong on the eighth house level and positive can happen during that particular time. Okay. And so basically, this course is going to teach you how to work with mutual agenda of the planets, which is not as easy as it seems, but it is something that once you learn how to do it, you're going to go, wow, this is so much fun. And in addition to that, it also teaches you how to work with the avastas of Vedic astrology, which play a key role in determining whether a planet's going to be productive or lack productiveness. Okay, among other things. And if you want to take advantage of this 10% discount for being a viewer on any of those courses, the discount code for that is MOON in all uppercase letters. Here I'm typing it into the window. And the website you would need to go to is www.authenticastrology.com. And just look for the courses link there, and you can now purchase the courses. Does my course teach how the nodes behave specifically on dispositors in all signs? My course teaches how the nodes behave in the signs. I'm not sure of your question. You can clarify for me, but let me explain. So basically, it explains how the nodes behave in each of the signs. It explains how the nodes it explains how the nodes behave in the houses. In addition to that, it tells you how to judge the strength of the nodes based upon the dispositor and how to determine what areas of life the nodes will play out in based upon houses they conjunct, and equally where the dispositor of the node is placed from the node and the ascendant itself. So it's a very in-depth course on the nodes. Okay. It's, I believe, about 45 classes long. I'm not sure. I think it's 45 classes long. Okay. And I think that particular course, it's like $139 per 1/4 section. And I think it's like $499 for the full course. And of course, you get a 10% discount with Moon by entering the word Moon, all uppercase letters. Okay. Can Rahu in the first house signify a narcissistic person? It can, but it doesn't always. It doesn't always. And that's the whole thing, is we can't judge it based upon just that factor alone. It's best if you try to be compassionate for the person that has that, because, it's very difficult having Rahu in the first house. Basically, it's the same as going, I don't know who I am. Right? Rahu in the first house people equally have a hard time grasping concepts because the first house relates to the head. And so you'll find quite often with people who have Rahu in the first house, you may tell them something and they'll ask you a question like about what you just told them, even though you just told them, because they don't have any, it's very difficult for them to retain information a lot of times. Okay. All right, so let's see what else we've got. If the dispositors of the nodes are conjunct with a node, again, it depends on the strength or weakness of all of those planets. Okay, but if the dispositors of a node, like if you have Ketu conjuncting its dispositor, that means there's going to be a bigger gravitational pull towards Ketu. Those people generally tend to feel stuck in their life, like things are not moving forward and they can't break away from that Ketu. But quite often that's a very necessary process because the individual in this lifetime is doing a lot of integration work. Okay. If you have the dispositor of Rahu placed with Rahu, that can make Rahu Dasha very intense. Like things happen really quickly and on a very deep level. And then sometimes you can have the dispositor of Ketu with Rahu and the dispositor of Rahu with Ketu. Those are very powerful integrative lifetimes where the nodes are being intensified, but the integration concept of it is very heightened. But yet at the same time, it can make things very intense. Should you look at divisional charts for transits? I don't bring up a divisional chart, transit chart. What you can do, which is much better and much more positive, is look, for instance, for a factor from a divisional chart in aspect or transiting a factor in the Rashi chart. So, for instance, if we're looking at something related to marriage, which is really more of a ninth house thing than just a seventh house thing, because the ninth house deals with committed relationships, we might be looking for a ninth house factor from the Navamsha transiting in the sky to a self related factor in the Rashi chart or to Venus or something like that. So, you don't have to, like, do a special transit chart for the Varga, so to speak, is what I'm trying to say. There's an easier way to do it. Okay. Let's see some of the other questions. Okay. Cancer, ascendant, moon in Scorpio, sun in Libra, any remedies? I would never give somebody a remedy just based upon a few different planets. I need to see your entire horoscope. Doing it on just a few planets, it's going to like kind of set you working on the wrong thing in your life. I don't know where the rest of your planets are. Okay, so that's why I wouldn't do that. So let's explain how K2 Sun conjunctions work out. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. I'm never good enough. I'm never perfect enough. K2 Sun people, they always set the bar too high for themselves. And when they achieve that bar, they're going to set it higher. And then when they achieve that, they're going to set it higher. And they'll never let themselves be satisfied with themselves. Okay. One part of that is positive because they will always strive for something greater. One part of it is can be negative because they never accept themselves as they are. That's what K2 Sun tends to do. Okay. Generally, when you have the nodes flipped in any Varga chart to the Rashi chart, then what it means is a lifetime where the individual is revisiting some concepts, but just from the opposite point of view. It's a little bit more intricate than that, but I can't give you a clearer answer on that unless I'm looking at the particular horoscope. So, for instance, if you have Ketu in the first and Rahu in the seventh, and then in another chart, you like the Navamsha chart, you have Ketu in the seventh and Rahu in the first. Well, Ketu in the first likes to be alone. It's going to work, it's going to function better being by itself. But with Rahu in the seventh, they're needing to learn how to be just as functional within relationships. And then if you have Ketu in the seventh, well, the person has had a lot of comfort in relationships, and now they're needing to learn how to be alone. And that's a very confusing thing if it's all there really in terms of relationship thing. Generally, what that means is the person in general needs to be in relationships, but at the same time, they feel very alone in relationships, and they're needing to learn how to function in relationships on that level. Okay. But that's just a simple interpretation of that. Okay. So let's see if there are any other questions here. And there's lots and lots of questions, but it's just how many I can get to. Can someone get married and have children in Ketu Dasha? People can do anything in any dasha if the dasha provides for it. And that's what this approaching live webinar course is all about. It's going to teach you how to know when certain things can happen. So I really suggest that course. It's $329 for the entire course with your 10% discount if you register between now and tomorrow night at 10:30 p.m. London time. That's going to be roughly about, $280 for a 15-week webinar course. That's a very good deal. Okay. Let's see what else we've got. So again, please try to refrain from asking me to interpret your horoscope here because it becomes obvious when you're doing that, just so everybody knows. And I tend to steer away from that. Okay. Vargotama conjunctions can have more significance, yes. But a lot of things really have to work for, a lot of things really have to be judged in terms of the strength of those particular factors. Okay, I'm going to come back to your question, Mia, because somebody's asking a question. Does the discount work for a consultation? Yeah, you know what? Sure, why not? Okay. So if you would like to have a discount on a consultation, again, it's the same code. So you visit authenticastrology.com, all uppercase letters moon. If you schedule between now and tomorrow night at 10:30 p.m. So I'll extend that to the consultations as well to all of my viewers here. Okay. All right, so K2 Mars conjunction Vargotama. Does Vargotama conjunctions in the D1 and D9 have more significance? They can be stronger. But you see, the thing is, and this is why I'm not going too deeply into that, if you've got a strong Mars, that K2 Mars conjunction is not going to be as difficult as perhaps if they were K2 Mars conjuncting each other in Cancer and Vargotama. You see? So, that's why it has to be judged on an individual basis. Okay. Everything in astrology you can pretty much guarantee across the board has to be judged in on a particular basis, which is why you see me come on here and go, I'm not going to interpret factors in your horoscope for you, because the thing is interpreting factors in your horoscope for you like that is just me giving you inaccurate interpretations based on generalizations in your horoscope. And so I don't like doing that. Okay. So let's see. You have Saturn, Vargotama, Cancer ascendant. Am I doomed? You're never doomed. If that Saturn is strong, then that's not really problematic. A lot of people misunderstand and think that if a planet is strong and it's a difficult planet, that's bad, but that's actually completely wrong. If it's a strong planet, then that's going to be a positive planet, but it still has to behave like Saturn, which is challenging. Okay. How do I interpret the strength of a planet in a horoscope? In a few different ways, dependent upon what I'm doing. I would say probably one of the main ways I do is by working with the avastas, the Baladi avastas and the Jagradati avastas, less so than working with planetary dignity, unless I'm doing Jaimini techniques, and then planetary dignity becomes the most important factor. But that's also something that I'm teaching on this approaching course. So I really do recommend it if you can get on that course. And here's a good opportunity to do it. So it's basically 10% off of $329 if you register between now and tomorrow night. And to do so, you just go to authenticastrology.com. And you look for the courses drop down menu. And when you go to make payments, you just enter the word moon, all uppercase letters. Okay. But sometimes I also use Shadbala. It depends on what I'm doing, really. So it's various things that I use for strength. But I usually, unless I'm doing a Jaimini technique, I don't just simply rely upon planetary dignity. Planetary dignity is something that is a part of something, I should say, called deep tadi avastas, which generally indicate how a planet feels as it's going about doing what it's doing. But you see, you can have a planet, if you're working with Vimshotri Dasha techniques, you can have a planet that feels miserable going about doing what it has to do, but it has the strength to produce that thing that it's trying to produce. And so it creates it, but it feels miserable doing that. Like, let's say, for instance, a relationship, like you could have a planet that's like in an enemy sign and it's Yuva and it's a seventh house factor. So it could create a relationship for the person, but it's not a relationship that they're going to feel like this is absolutely the best, most wonderful relationship I've ever had, right? That's a good way to understand it. Okay, let's see some other questions. I can probably continue on for about another 10 minutes, I think. See some other questions people might have. And while we're waiting for people to ask some more questions, again, all the courses on my site, and in addition, a consultation. If you want to book a consultation, 10% discount on that too at AuthenticAstrology.com. If you book between now and 10:30 p.m. tomorrow night and enter the discount code when you go to make payment, all uppercase letters, Moon. There we go. What is the name of that particular course? That particular course is Concrete Prediction Using Vimshottari Dasha. As a matter of fact, if you hold on a second, I will try to bring it up. If you see my video getting jerky, the reason it's getting jerky is because I'm trying to do two things at the same time. So I can give you the exact name of the course. I'm just waiting for the page to open. It is called Predicting Concrete Events, Level 1 webinar course from Shottari Dasha, Mutual Agenda, and the Avastas. If you go to AuthenticAstrology.com, it'll be the first thing that pops up when you do that. It'll have like a black background and it'll show a picture of Parashara, and there'll be a thing that says for further information. You just click on that. It'll take you to that page. Okay. Mars in 7th house in D9. Well, that depends upon what Mars rules in the D9 on many levels, right? It depends on the well-being of Mars in the D9. If Mars is debilitated, then, that can be somewhat problematic. So everything has to be taken in fullness with horoscopes rather than just one isolated factor. Okay. That's why I'm not big. I'll say it again. That's why I'm not big on giving horoscope interpretations like this. The other reason being, hey, I'm a professional. This is how I feed my family, so I don't want to, I can't just do that. Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit about remedies in general. And I know some of you who have heard me talk about this before. Remedies are not to be mistaken to make everything in your horoscope go away. And that's the approach that a lot of people tend to take from it. They think that if I do this, that, or the other thing, it's going to completely erase that problem. That's a myth that's generally perpetuated by people who want to sell you a remedy. Okay. It doesn't mean that remedies don't work and that they can't be helpful and that they can't alleviate problems. But if you're expecting a remedy to completely eliminate something in your horoscope, chances are you're going to be disappointed. Okay. And so the best thing to do in terms of understanding remedies, the best remedy in general for anybody is understanding your karma and doing the work necessary to work on it. Okay, that's the best remedy anybody can have. But sometimes we need little things to help us with that journey. Mantra is really good for that. I find something called, if you do Nakshatra affirmations for the Nakshatra Sutras of Taittiriya Brahmana, those are definitely very powerful too. Do I do birth time rectifications? Yes, I do. You have to contact me especially for those, though, because I don't have them listed on the site, because I don't charge a base fee across the board for that, because it depends upon the complexity of the rectification. Have I ever studied charts of lottery winners? It's not something I'm that interested in, really. I have to confess. Okay. So it's not my cup of tea. I like helping people, more so than just focusing on whether they're going to win lottery and stuff like that. What's my favorite part of astrology? The nakshatras. That's my main thing. Always has been. I just gravitated towards them immediately, and I found them the single most, I guess I would say, enticing factor in astrology. What would I need for birth time rectification? I would need exact dates of specific types of events. Like if you're married, the date you were married, not just the month. I need day, month, and year. If you have siblings, I need, if they're younger siblings, not older siblings, because you weren't alive when your sibling was born, right? So birthdays of siblings, that's another factor. Birthdays of children, that's another factor. But really, all these things have to be exact dates. Um, Approximate dates don't work because I use transits, and most specifically, I use something called trigger transit techniques, which are very precise transits. So a day off can throw the rectification off. But if you give me good, accurate dates, I can get your birth time accurate within seconds. Okay. Let's see what else we've got here. Two debilitated planets aspecting each other from opposite houses could cancel the debilitation or cause the aspect to be weaker. No, it's not going to cause the aspect to be weaker. The aspect is what it is. It's an aspect. The two planets are debilitated. Well, it depends on what those planets are doing. Those two planets are making each other weaker, really, on a certain level. And if you happen to be in the dasha, antardasha of those planets, that's going to be even more intensified. Okay. So it's not, they wouldn't cancel each other out. It's imagine you've got a weak planet that's creating misery and it's aspecting another weak planet that's creating misery. It's just going to create misery, especially if you're in the dasha of those planets. Okay. Do I think where the nakshatra lord of a planet is located is more significant, or house lord of where that planet is located is more important to look at? Um, the thing is I don't judge strength of nakshatras based upon the house that they're placed in. Generally, what I tend to do is, again, use the Baladi Avastas and Jagradati Avastas, and I have my own specific way of judging the strength of those planets, which is something, again, that would be covered on that course, mainly in application to predicting concrete things, but you can apply that same technique to understanding whether a nakshatra will yield its more positive effects or its more difficult effects. Yeah. Okay. What is my favorite nakshatra and why? Depends. It's like, what is my favorite day of the week, right? Well, it's Tuesday this week because this Tuesday I've got a day free and I'm going to do this, right? Or it's Friday this week because on this Friday I'm doing that. So it depends on any particular time. I can't teach you one secret technique because my techniques that I know are not something that I could teach you in 5 minutes, right? They're basically, and if I did, I'd have to kill you. I'm only kidding. No, I'm just joking about the last bit. Don't worry. Okay. So, teach you one secret technique. I couldn't teach that to you in 5 minutes. That's why I don't come on and give these things where I say, these three planets interacting like this will always create this, because they don't always create that in terms of things. You have to like take things in terms of how to judge strengths, etc. Okay. All right. Let's see what else we've got here. I've got basically 1 more minute. Study the nakshatras. Any tips for people ruled by the moon? Moon cycles make us wax and wane along with her. Study the nakshatras. They're important for you. How to tell if your natal moon is waxing or waning. Okay, well, if it's between, so if its degrees are higher than the sun's and it's moving um, basically across from the sun towards a 180-degree angle, meaning directly opposite. So if it's moving from the sun to directly opposite the sun, that's a waxing moon. If it's moving from directly opposite the sun, 180 degrees towards the sun, that's a waning moon. Okay. That's the easiest way to do it without giving you a particular diagram. All right. So again, a reminder, everything on my site, consultations, courses, everything 10% off between now and tomorrow night. If you enter the discount code, all uppercase letters moon, my website address is www.authentic.astrology.com. I highly recommend the new webinar course that starts on the 5th of October. Um, Again, your discount would be good for that. Discount code all uppercase letters moon. If you're not into doing that one, there are a couple of video courses that are there too, one on Rahu and Ketu, and you can take those in portions if you want to, and the discount would apply to that also. Another one on the Vargas, if you're interested in that course. But this course that I'm teaching coming up on the concrete prediction using mutual agenda is a very powerful technique. So if everybody wants to know what my, technique that I use for concrete prediction all the time is, that's definitely one of them. So highly recommend getting on that course if you have a chance. Okay. And again, if you want a consultation, you can book a consultation between now and tomorrow night at 10:30. Again, 10% discount applies. All uppercase letters moon. Okay. That's going to do it, everybody. I'll talk to you later. Take it easy until the next time we connect. And everybody have a really excellent full moon. Bye now.